Before we get started here, I would just want to announce really quickly that we're going to have a short society meeting this coming Sunday. If you have no idea what that is, come check it out. Come check it out. We would love to be there and show you what it is. And it's basically what goes on in the business side of the church too. So with that being said, we're going to meet this Sunday at 11 a.m. At our location, which is on the website. So please come and join us and check it out. And also, before last thing before we get going here is that I just kind of want to put it out to any of you that are watching this or listening that if membership or baptism is something that you've been interested or wanting more information on, please let me know. I would love to walk with you through that. I would love to talk to you through it. And if any of you would want to become baptized or become a member of our church, please let me know too, as this is something that we talk about every year around this time of year. So yeah, again, any questions along those lines, please come and let me know. I would love to talk to you about those things. Now, as we've seen in the previous weeks, the Bible is littered quite a bit with material and wisdom in regards to how we use our time, the fleetingness and the fragility of life, and asking the question for humanity, that is, how much control do we actually have in our lives? Because again, as autonomous, rational human beings, as we would think we are, control is probably one of the things that we have 100% of control in. But is it really? Is it really? Now, as the events of this past week unfolded in Monterey Park and up north in Half Moon Bay, I believe these truths and the wisdom from the scriptures that we've been looking at the past several weeks are even more relevant today, unfortunately. I wanted to share real quickly, one of my colleagues that I met when I was in seminary posted on Facebook a text thread of someone actually inviting him to that particular Lunar New Year celebration, to which he decided not to attend. And I don't know why he decided not to attend, but he decided not to attend. Probably a good decision on his part. And I'd imagine that there are story after story of people maybe who went and left early, or who didn't go at all, or who had another New Year's party to go to and didn't go to this particular one. And then I've heard it from a few of you too about loved ones that either didn't go or went in the past and didn't go this year, or actually went to the party and left early, kind of thing. And these things that happen, that put a lot of those things in perspective about life and just about the things that happen. So again, for this colleague of mine, maybe it was a good decision that he didn't attend. But on the flip side, for those 11 people who wanted to dance and celebrate the Lunar New Year passed away, I pray that the Lord would have mercy on us all. I pray that the Lord would have mercy on us all. And as we're kind of thinking and processing through this, one thing that we could do is actually lift them up in prayer and really just be guided in a way that's effective and tangible for them, that God is present, and we just pray that the Lord would have mercy on all of those affected. And if this story couldn't at all hit even closer to home, maybe for us, I'm going to quote from an article from the LA Times this past week, and it said this: authorities have identified the man responsible for a deadly shooting inside a Monterey Park dance studio as Hemet resident Hu Can Tran, who is 72 years old. Tran died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a strip mall parking lot near Sepulveda and Hawthorne Boulevard in Torrance, law enforcement sources said. We are still not clear on the motive, Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna said. That's the parking lot where the PetSmart and the Hobby Lobby and I believe the Walmart is in there. Something that we probably all drive by or have driven by in the past, and we know exactly where that is. It was there where this, particular shooter killed himself, in that parking lot. And it's sobering in a lot of ways. I think for me at least, it brings up a lot of emotions about the idea of the fleetingness and the fragility of life, I think it really forced me to think through the things that are good and that are necessary, and the things that will last. For the 11 that were taken, it's unfortunate. It's just so sad. It is just so sad. So please, as we go about our weeks ahead, and I know that this hits our community hard, being for myself being an Asian American, it runs really close, and I ask that we would all keep everybody in prayer at this time, and just give them to the Lord, and because the Lord can deal with these things too. I was watching TV again this past week, and one of the things that came up was that this is now the 3rd year anniversary, I think it was, this past week, of Kobe Bryant, the legendary, my favorite basketball player ever, Los Angeles Laker, player. He passed away too, along with his daughter and 6 or 7 others in that helicopter crash. And as I was watching it, it was also very, very sad, obviously, for many reasons. But the interesting thing was that of course, they interview all these people afterwards and just share their thoughts and about Kobe and stuff. And one of the people that shared was, interestingly enough, Jennifer Lopez, the singer and actress, J-Lo kind of thing. And as she was talking, a lot of the cliche things that people say are very true, but this one really got me, because she was kind of talking about how she knew Kobe a little bit, but not really close, more in passing kind of thing. But he was always nice, and Vanessa, his wife, was always nice. And she said that after Kobe left, she said that she was kind of reminded of the idea of how fragile life is here on Earth. So therefore, we need to really enjoy it while we can now, and also really tell our loved ones that we love them, and spend time with them, and just take any opportunity that we can to appreciate the love from our family and friends in this minute. And this is not the first time I've heard that. I feel like a lot of people say that, when things like this happen, when celebrities or when loved ones that are close, and they were too young, pass away early kind of thing. People, say this a lot, that just is a reminder of, how fragile human life is, and, how we need to take advantage of the opportunities now to say I love you to all those people. And I thought about that, and it's such a cliche thing for me, at least the way I hear it. But the interesting thing is that wisdom actually comes from the Bible. It's based on Ecclesiastes. That's Ecclesiastes wisdom right there. So exactly what the things that Jennifer Lopez said about the fragility of human life, enjoying the moment now while we can, embracing our loved ones, that's Ecclesiastes wisdom. That comes from the Bible. And I feel like it's such a fleeting thing sometimes that we forget, but yet that's biblical wisdom in terms of knowing it and also being able to respond to it as well. So our scripture from Ephesians last time talked about, kind of the similar idea of being careful then how you live, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of the time because the days are evil. Now, unfortunately, the days are sometimes evil, aren't they? I think we all experienced that this past week. So again, this begs a question about wisdom as it relates to the fragility of time or lives, and asking the question of what it means to make the most out of every opportunity. Now, today's scripture has to do with this, again, similar idea we've been talking about these past few weeks. Today's scripture comes from the book of Proverbs. Now, Proverbs is in the Old Testament of the Bible, and Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, is best understood in the context with the books of Ecclesiastes and Job in the Old Testament, which again, these three books encapsulate the wisdom genre of the Bible. Now, in Proverbs, wisdom is given in short, simple, general terms. Ecclesiastes represents wisdom based on observation and experience. This often shows the general principles of the book of Proverbs, that they don't apply in absolutely every circumstance. Now, Job represents wisdom based on experience of suffering and injustice. So we kind of see how the three books, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job, they all kind of have a different angle on when it comes when it comes to wisdom. But all three of the books come to the conclusion that God does indeed know best, and the most sensible course of action is to follow Him and His will. Is to follow God and His will. All three books agree with that. So again, for those keeping score, the Old Testament the Old Testament book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job make up the wisdom genre of the Old Testament. Not saying that there isn't any other source of wisdom, anywhere else in the Bible, but these books were written explicitly for the purpose to impart wisdom. Right? Okay. Now, for our wisdom passage today, it comes from Proverbs 16:9. Proverbs 16:9. Proverbs 16:9, and it's all about maybe a dozen words, and that's it. It simply says this: the human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. The human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. Another version says it this way: in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. So, it's humans, it's the human mind and or the human's heart plans the way. So I question, is this a bad thing? Is it a bad thing? This is not a bad thing. If you're thinking that, it's not a bad thing. We, as basically humans made in the image of God, think about and plan our way, right? So there's nothing necessarily wrong with planning. Many people would do well to more carefully plan their way, right? You could probably think of people now that could probably do well in planning better about their lives. So again, don't you know those, knowing people in your life who don't plan anything kind of thing? And for me, at least, one buddy kind of comes to mind. It's just like, what are you doing with your, in any case, if you could think about it, those people who don't really plan anything, it's just like, wait, what? I have no idea. Even when we hang out with this particular friend, it's so spontaneous. So I think I've learned how to be spontaneous and flexible through this guy, because whenever, we spent time together in the past, we would always just do the random thing that just came up. Oh, hey, let's go do this, or let's go do that. And it's just like, wait, what? I thought we were doing this. He's like, no, let's just go do it. I'm like, all right, well, that's the way you lead your life. So there's that. Then you have your over-planners too, right? Over-planners who have their basically entire life mapped out, right? Color coordinated and the calendars and all these cool things. Now, if you're thinking, well, the writers of this wisdom will call those on each extreme, those who don't plan at all and those who over-plan, on the extreme. Basically, both of those are basically fools. Because if you remember in our passage in James chapter 4, which is in the New Testament, that says, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town and spend a year there doing business and making money. Yet you do not even know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while, then vanishes. Right? Remember that? Doesn't this wisdom from the Epistle of James in the New Testament sound a little bit similar right here, right, to what we're reading here in Proverbs? Right? So basically he's saying that those of you who overplan and think that you know what's going to happen in this next year of life, you are a fool. You are a fool because you don't know what the outcome. You may have the best intentions for it, but you don't know the outcome, kind of thing. So that's foolish according to the Epistle of James. So again, it's not the planning that gets us called fools. It's just a kind of a mean word to get called, but it's not the planning that gets us called fools, because if we humans plan or devise our way so as to make God's glory our end and pay attention to His will in this whole thing, the expectation is that he will direct our steps by his Spirit and grace, so that the intended outcome will come to fruition. Now, I'd imagine, I want us to think about this too, that, if we've led something or we've been in charge of something, we were responsible for a project at work, or, for people or this or that, for them to do their work. Isn't it stressful sometimes? Right? Isn't it stressful sometimes? Now imagine for maybe you, or maybe for us, being responsible, very responsible human beings kind of thing. And you could have everything planned to a T, but doesn't sometimes, maybe not all the time, but for a lot of the time, doesn't something always go wrong, or something needs to call or needs more attention because maybe someone forgot something, or someone didn't do a minor detail and that needs to be taken care of, or something just literally blows up and that's not even expected, or the rug gets pulled out and it's just like, wait, what do we do now, kind of thing. The best laid out plans, right, sometimes don't go to fruition for whatever reason. And if you've ever planned anything, and as I know that you all definitely have planned in the past, it's hard, right? Like, it's hard to kind of deal with that. May we know that God still has the ordering of events, directs our steps in ways maybe we least intended. So despite our best well laid out plans and it going kind of awry, again, may we know that God still has the ordering of the events, right? And that he's directing our steps in ways maybe we least intended, right? His design of this is to teach us to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that, coming again from James chapter 4. And to have our eye to God, not only in the great turns of our lives, but in every small step that we take, right? Because again, life, it's a very fluid thing. We're living life right now, but also we're supposed to obviously pay attention to God in the big turns of life. But again, the small steps we take, kind of thing, kind of get overshadowed, right? Because of all the big things that kind of go on. Whereas I feel like the Lord is teaching us here, those small steps that we take do matter as well. So again, we plan as we can and should, but we should never think that our ability to plan makes us Lord of our lives. That it is the Lord, it is God who directs our steps. Every plan we make should be held in humility before God and in surrender to his ultimate will. So again, this segment of scripture begins with the discussion of man's plans, right? Human nature can lead us to arrogance and ignorance. And this is what the scripture is warning against here in Proverbs. Arrogance and ignorance. It's a big warning against that. God does not like arrogance or ignorance. That failure to seek God's will or examine our own motives can lead to disaster, despite what a person might tell themselves. The Lord sees the heart, right? The Lord sees the heart, weighs the spirit, and determines what will happen. The Lord is sovereign. He has a purpose for everything under the sun. Everything under the sun. God detests, again, arrogance, spiritual pride that causes a person to reject God, but is pleased when one turns away from evil. Therefore, godly wisdom in a lot of ways, and this is scriptural too, godly wisdom is better than any material wealth, right? Because material wealth comes and goes, right? Vanishes, right? It vanishes. I would like to conclude today with a few quotes from people that are a lot smarter than I am. A lot smarter than I am. First quote comes from a man named Bruce Waltke, whom is an American Reformed evangelical professor of Old Testament, saying this concerning this scripture. A man may plan his road to the last detail, but he cannot implement his planning unless it coincides with God's plan for him. One more time. A man may plan his road to the last detail, but he cannot implement his planning unless it coincides with God's plan for him. Now the next and final quote comes from a man named Charles Bridges. Now Charles Bridges was a 19th century preacher and theologian in the Church of England. He says this: as rational agents we think, consult, act freely. We are dependent agents and the Lord exercises his own power in permitting, overruling, and furthering our actions. Thus, man proposes and God disposes. Thus, man proposes and God disposes. May we have the Lord on our mind in the things that we do, especially when things are going haywire and out of your control, because that pushes us to rely on him more, right? Things go haywire, I think, and this, funny enough, happened to me maybe a few weeks ago, where you kind of get shaken, or you're sitting there, you're too comfortable, or like you're sleeping in slumber, and then you get waking up and you get shaken awake, kind of thing. It's like you're at attention, kind of thing. I believe that that's what happens, when things go haywire, out of control, because it pushes us, right? It pushes us to rely on God more, because he has our attention now, kind of thing. And I believe this practice on wisdom leads to our ever-expanding vision of our lives for God's purposes. So may we see the purposes of God in all facets of life. And what these wisdom scriptures are all kind of pointing to is that exact idea that, that we have opportunities, that we have opportunities to be able to express ourselves and to use our words, and how our words might affect others. And that does not mean bullhorns, megaphones, that kind of thing. That does not mean that. But it means sharing our lives, sharing the gifts that we have with others. And that's something I believe that we all could do, that we all not only can do, but can do very, very well. So, with these things in mind, with the things that are going on in our lives, may we be safe. I pray that the Lord would grant us safe passages in all that we do. I pray that the Lord would be able to meet us in times when things go haywire and when things aren't going our way, that we would know that, that we would still keep him in mind during those times. So, with that all being said, as we go about our weeks ahead, may his grace and peace be with us all.